Hello students, this is the continuation of the first video of chapter 9, The Bond of Love, written by Kenneth Anderson from Beehive textbook for class 9. So in the first video we had done up to number 12, and in that number 12 we had seen about Bruno. He could do a few tricks. If you can read that number 12, you'll be able to find there, okay, what are his few tricks. That is Bruno. Okay, so from there we had seen, and again we had also seen his another name which was given by the narrator's wife, from Bruno to Baba. Baba means, it is a Hindustani word signifying a small boy. Okay, so in number 12 we had seen about his few tricks that Bruno could do. Now let us see number 13. Now in number 13, then my son and I advised my wife, and friends advised her too, to give Baba to the zoo at Mysore. He was getting too big to keep at home. After some weeks of such advice, she at last consented. Hastily, and before she could change her mind, a letter was written to the curator of the zoo. Did he want a dampier for his collection? He replied, yes. The zoo sent a cage for Mysore in a lorry, a distance of 87 miles, and Baba was backed off. So earlier we had seen Bruno had grown much more bigger, even bigger than the two dogs which were in their house. Okay, and there were children, the tenants' children. So Bruno, or the papa, okay, being grown very big, it was very risky to keep in their house because he might do harm to the children. So his son, the narrator's son, and the narrator advised to the wife, okay, and also the friends also advise her to give Baba to the zoo at Mysore. It should not be kept in a house, but it should be kept in a zoo. That is what they advised her. And he was getting too big to keep at home, and it is dangerous. He might create a problem. So they advised him to keep the Bruno or the Baba in the zoo. So after some weeks of such advice, before the lady, okay, the narrator's wife, she was not ready to keep that Bruno or to give that Baba to the zoo at Mysore. But after some weeks of such advice, she at last consented. Consented means she allowed, okay. And very quickly, as soon as she said yes, before she changed her mind, okay, the narrator wrote a letter to the curator of the zoo. Curator means a person who manages the zoo. Okay, curator means here a person in charge of the zoo, or a person who manages the zoo. So he asks through a letter whether he would want to dam a bear for his collection in the zoo, and he replied yes. And the zoo sent a cage from Mysore in a lorry. Lorry means a truck. Okay, so the bear has grown very big, so it needed a very big vehicle to carry him. So they sent a cage from a lorry, okay, from Mysore in a lorry, which was a distance of 87 miles, and Baba was backed off. Backed off means he was taken away from there, okay, from Bangalore to Mysore to keep him in a zoo. Now 14, we all missed him greatly, but in a sense we were relieved. My wife was inconsolable. She wept and fretted. For the first few days, she would not eat a thing. Then she wrote a number of letters to the curator. How was Baba? Back came the replies, well, but fretting. He refuses food too. So when the Baba or the Bruno was taken to the zoo, they all missed him greatly. They means the narrator, his son, again his wife, again the tenants, the children, okay, everyone, they miss Bruno so much. But somehow they were also relieved. They were also relieved, because if they keeping the beer in their house, they were not that much secured. Okay, they felt very insecure. So when the bear was taken to the zoo, they were relieved. But his wife was inconsolable. No one can console his wife. She kept on crying and crying, and she was so worried. Fretted means worried or unhappy. Okay, so she was very unhappy because she loves that Bruno so much. So for the first few days, what the lady did was that she would not eat a thing because she was very unhappy, very worried. So she did not take food also. She did not eat food. And she wrote a number of letters to the curator asking about Papa, asking how was Papa. Okay, so the curator also replies her back. In his letter, the curator says that, well, he is fine, but fretting means the bear also very much unhappy, and the bear also refuses food like the mistress, okay, like the lady. So both of them, they were missing each other so much that they don't even want to have food. They refuse their food. Now number 15. After that, friends visiting Mysore were begged to make a point of going to the zoo and seeing how Baba was getting along. They reported that he was well but looked very thin and sad. All the keepers at the zoo said he was fretting. For 3 months, I managed to restrain my wife from visiting Mysore. Then she said one day, I must see Baba. Either you take me by car or I will go myself by bus or train. So I took her by car. So after that, the lady was so worried, okay, the narrator's wife. So when her friends visited Mysore, she also requested them to look into or to check out Baba, okay, how he was doing in that zoo. So they came back and they reported, okay. Her friends came and reported her that he was well, but he looked very thin and very sad. And all the zookeepers at the zoo, okay, the keepers, they said that the bear, that is Bruno, the sloth bear, he was very worried. He was very unhappy. So for 3 months, okay, the narrator says that for 3 months he managed to restrain his wife. His wife wanted to go to the zoo, but making different kinds of excuses, he did not allow his wife to go to Mysore to visit the Bruno, okay, the bear. So for 3 months, he managed to restrain his wife from visiting Mysore. But one day, the lady says that she must see Baba. Either he takes her by car or if he doesn't take her to the zoo, then she will go by herself by bus or a train. This is what the lady, that is the narrator's wife, told to the narrator. Okay, so the narrator, he also agreed to her, and he took her by car, okay, to Mysore to pay a visit to Bruno, who was kept in the zoo. Now number 16. Friends had conjectured that the bear would not recognize her. I had thought so too, but while she was yet some yards from his cage, Baba saw her and recognized her. He howled with happiness. She ran up to him, patted him through the bars, and he stood on his head in delight. So when uh, the lady, okay, and the narrator, they had gone to visit the bear, all her friends or all their friends, they had conjecture means they had an opinion, okay, they had opinion that the bear would not recognize her because it's already a few months had gone, okay, so the bear would not recognize her. That is what they thought, okay. And even the narrator also thought that the bear might have forgotten his wife. But when they went to the zoo, while she was yet some yards, some distance from the cage, Baba saw her, and the Baba recognized her. And out of happiness, out of excitement, he howled. He made a loud noise with happiness, and the lady also ran up to him, and she went and petted him. Petted him means touched him with a very soft, or with a very light touch. Okay, light touch, a very soft touch. So she petted him through the bars. Bars means, okay, the bear was inside the cage. Okay, so she petted him through the bars, and he stood on his head in delight. On his head in delight, which means he was very happy, okay, seeing her once again after many months. Number 17, for the next 3 hours, she would not leave the gate. She gave him tea, lemonade, cakes, ice cream, and what not. Then closing time came and we had to leave. My wife cried bitterly. Papa cried bitterly. Even the hardened curator and the keepers felt depressed. As for me, I had reconciled myself to what I knew was going to happen next. So, for the next 3 hours, that means for the whole 3 hours they were together, and after that she would not leave that cage. The lady did not want to leave that cage. She gave him, okay, she brought many things. You can see in the picture also, okay, in page number 117. She gave him, earlier we had seen this Bruno. The Bruno, he eats everything. He drinks everything and he eats everything, whatever is given to him, right? So the lady brought many things, okay, many things for the Bruno. So she gave him tea, lemonade, cakes, ice creams, and many more. Okay, then closing time came and they had to leave, but the wife did not want to leave Bruno. Okay, so she cried bitterly, and Papa was also crying bitterly, and even the curator and even the zookeepers, they felt so sad seeing the bond, okay, the connection between the lady, the narrator's wife, and the Bruno, okay, and Bruno. So they also felt very sad. They were so much touched, okay, by the love and the affection and the connection that they have in between, that is Bruno and the lady. Okay, so I had reconciled myself to what I knew was going to happen next. So this thing will happen. Okay, he had already resumed from before he brought his wife. He was 100% sure that his wife will react in this way. Okay, and so what he thought, it happened. Okay, it happened in the zoo. The lady didn't want to leave that Bruno, so both Bruno and the lady, they were crying bitterly, and the zookeepers and the curator also, they felt very sad, okay, seeing their connection, their close connection, okay, seeing them, okay, they were very sad. Now 18, number 18. "Oh, please, sir," she asked the curator, "may I have my Baba back?" Hesitantly he answered, "Madam, he belongs to the zoo and is government property now. I cannot give away government property, but if my boss, the superintendent at Bangalore, agrees, certainly you may have him back." So now the lady wants to take back that Bruno. You can see the picture, the food items, okay, lying on the floor. Bruno is in the cage and the lady is providing all this. Okay, they have so much of love for one another. So the lady doesn't want to leave and she wants to take back that Baba, okay, to her house. So she asks the curator, okay, may I have my Baba back? Okay, so this was what she asked, but the curator says that now this very bear, that is Bruno or Baba, belongs to the zoo and is already a government property. So he doesn't have the authority to give her back the Baba. So she has to ask to his boss, that is the superintendent, which is at Bangalore. Okay, and only if the superintendent agrees, then his Baba will be back with her. Okay, so now 19, there followed the return journey to Bangalore and a visit to the superintendent's bungalow. At tearful pleading, Baba and I are both fretting for each other. Will you please give him back to me? He was a kind-hearted man and consented. Not only that, but he wrote to the curator telling him to lend us a cage for transporting the bear to Bangalore. Okay, so they came back, okay, they returned back to Bangalore and they had gone to visit the superintendent to request for Papa. Okay, so a tearful pleading, she was crying and she with a tearful eyes, she pleaded, she requested to the superintendent to give her back that Baba, because Baba and she are both fretting for each other. They are missing, okay, they are missing each other and they wanted to be together, okay, and they are so worried for one another. They cannot be separated. So she cried and she asked the superintendent to please to give him back that Baba to her. So here the superintendent was a very kind-hearted man and he consented. He agreed. And not only that, Not only that, the superintendent not only said yes, but he also wrote letter to the curator, curator, telling him to lend them a cage for transporting the bear to Bangalore. So they are from Bangalore. From Bangalore, they have gone to Mysore, and from Mysore, they have come back to Bangalore to meet the superintendent. And after that, now they are granted, they can take back the Baba. So they had again gone to Mysore. Now, number 20. Back we went to Mysore again, armed with the superintendent's letter. Baba was driven into a small cage and hoisted on top of the car. The cage was tied securely, and a slow and careful return journey to Bangalore was accomplished. So both of them, the narrator and his wife, they went back to Mysore along with the superintendent's letter, and they have given the letter to the curator. And now Baba was brought back again. He was driven into a small cage, and he was hoisted, he was kept on top of the car, and very slowly, very carefully, the Baba was brought back again to their house from Mysore to Bangalore, and it was accomplished. Accomplished means it was successful. They were successful in bringing Baba or Bruno back to their house. Now, number 21. Once home, a squad of ghoulies were engaged for special work in our compound. An island was made for Baba. It was 20 feet long and 15 feet wide and was surrounded by a dry bit or moat 6 feet wide and 7 feet deep. A wooden box that once house falls was brought and put on the island for Baba to sleep in at night. Straw was placed inside to keep him warm and his baby. The gnarled stump, along with his gun, the piece of bamboo, both of which had been sentimentally preserved since he had been sent away to the zoo, were put back for him to play with. Gnarled means rugged or twisted. So once they returned back home, a group of coolies, a group of workers, they were engaged for special work in their compound. Their compound was quite big enough, and so they called a group of ghoulies, and they were given a work. And what kind of work? They were told to prepare an island, an island for Baba, because he has grown very big and now they cannot keep inside their house, and now they wanted to keep that Baba in their compound in a separate place, so they wanted the ghoulies, a group of ghoulies, to make an island for Baba. So they made it, and they dug a ground, it was 20 feet long and 15 feet wide, and it was surrounded by a dry pit. A dry pit or a moat. Dry pit or moat, which means a deep, wide defensive ditch. They made a pit, they dug out the ground, so they made a wide defensive ditch normally filled with water. So it was 6 feet wide and 7 feet deep. And after that, a wooden box. Once it was used to keep for keeping hens, fowls. It was a house for the hens, and that wooden box was brought there in order to let Baba sleep in that at night, in that island. So that was his bed, to sleep. And a straw was also placed inside in order to keep him warm. And his baby, now do you remember the baby? Where is your baby? When someone tells you Baba, Baba will take the a log of wood, and he will take care of that that log of wood as a baby, right? So and his baby, the gnarled, the twisted stump, and also his gun, that is the stick, a piece of bamboo, and also all this which he used while playing, those things were preserved by the lady, when he was sent away to the zoo. So once again, all these which were kept very safely by the narrator's wife were brought again and sent away to the were kept in the island, in the island, in order to let Bruno play with them once again. So all these were put back for him to play with. Now in number 22, in a few days the coolies hoisted the cage onto the island and Papa was released. He was delighted, standing on his hind legs. He pointed his gun and cradled his baby. My wife spent hours sitting on a chair there while he sat on her lap. He was 15 months old and pretty heavy too. Hoisted means raised by means of ropes or bullies. Okay, so now in number 2, in a few days the coolies, okay, they hoisted, that is they brought, it was a very big cage, okay, and so they brought with the help of bullies or a rope, okay, with ropes, okay, they brought the cage and they place it on the island, and later on they open the cage and they let Baba come out, okay, in order to let him stay in the island. Okay, so Baba was very delighted. He was so happy. He stood on his hind legs. He pointed at his gun and he played with his baby, okay, that is the stump, okay, the wood, a log of wood. And his wife, the narrator's wife, also spent hours sitting on a chair in that island. And when she sits on a chair, then Baba, okay, or the Bruno comes and sat on her lap. He was 15 months old only, but he was very big and pretty heavy too also. Okay, his weight, okay, was quite heavy. So both of them, they were so connected to one another. Okay, the narrator's wife and this Bruno. So the wife also goes to the island, okay, to meet him, and she sits there on a chair, and Bruno comes and sits on her lap. Okay, so he was 15 months old and pretty heavy too. Now the last number. The way my wife reaches the island and leaves it is interesting. I have tied a rope to the overhanging branch of a mango tree with a loop at its end. Putting one foot in the loop, she kicks off with the other to bridge the 6-foot gap that constitutes the width of the surrounding pit. The return journey is made the same way, but who can say now that a sloth bear has no sense of affection, no memory, and no individual characteristics? Okay, so now the narrator says that the way his wife goes to the island, okay, and leaves the island, it's very interesting. It's very interesting to watch her. So how she used to go to the island. Now here the narrator says that the narrator, okay, just next to the island, okay, to go to the island, there was a mango tree, a big mango tree, and on the branch the narrator has tied a rope, okay, to the overhanging branch of a mango tree, and that rope he made a knot, a loop, okay, at its end. K-N-O-T, okay, he made a knot at its end. And how the lady goes there, the lady, that is his wife, the narrator's wife, she puts one of his feet, okay, foot in the loop, okay, and she kicks off with the other, and in this way she swing, okay, the rope, and she goes to the island, okay, which was 6-foot gap that constitutes the width of the surrounding pit. Okay, so she goes there with the help of the rope, okay, swinging the rope, okay, which is hanging, okay, from the on the branch of that mango tree, okay, the branch of the mango tree. So in this way she goes. And return journey also, when she returns back, when she comes back again, she has to do the same thing. She has to take the rope, okay, she has to put one of her foot, okay, in the loop, and then she has to kick off with the other, and then she comes back. Okay, so it was very interesting to look at. So this is what the narrator says. Now lastly, the narrator says, but who can say now that a sloth bear has no sense of affection? Now he says that now, is there anyone who can say that a sloth bear, who is an animal, a wild animal, has no sense of affection, no memory, no individual characteristics? Okay, he asks a question. Yes, of course. Okay, though he is a sloth bear, a wild animal, but he has lots of, okay, a sense of affection. He has got emotions and he has a memory power. Okay, though it was like few months gap, but still he can recognize the lady, right? He could recognize the narrator's wife, and he was jumping, okay, out of happiness when he was at the zoo. So he has a memory and he has individual characteristics also. He was very jolly, he was fun loving, he plays with a stick, okay, by using it as a gun. He plays with a log of wood, okay, taking care of that wood of log, okay, as a baby. Okay, so he has individual characteristics, he has a memory also, and he has lots of affection. Okay, so Animals, not only human beings, but animals also, they have emotions. Okay, they have emotions. So if human beings, if we can understand them, the animals also, they can understand us. And a human being and an animal can also have a very strong bond, a connection. Okay, we can make a friendship, we can love, and we can make a friendship with the, even with the wild animals also. Okay, so this is all about the story, The Bond of Love, written by Kenneth Anderson. It's very interesting. Listen to the video. Okay, and please read through your textbook. You will understand better. Okay, so this is the conclusion. Okay, I hope you have understood the story. Thank you, students.